Right, good afternoon everybody and welcome to this meeting of the Cabinet, the last in this municipal year, on Tuesday the 6th of May. First item on the agenda is membership of the Cabinet. Tyler Hawkins has had to send his apologies, I'm afraid, and Amanda Pinnock she's been carrying out a school visit this morning and is delayed in traffic coming back from Dewsbury. So she will be here, but she'll be a couple of minutes late, I'm afraid. The rest of the Cabinet, Councillor Turner, Councillor Kendrick, Councillor Ahmed, Beverly Addy, Councillor Crook and myself as Carol Patterson are here as expected. Right, minutes of the previous meeting. Can I see, are these approved? Cabinet members, thank you. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest any Cabinet member wants to make? No? Thank you. And admission of the public. Everything is to be held in public. There's nothing in private session. Okay, just before we have got a member of the public here who wishes to make a deputation and ask a question. But just before we do, I just want to say that this Cabinet agenda is a very interesting agenda, I think. Certainly for any new councillor that's been recently elected in the last week, or anybody thinking potentially about being a councillor. This is the day-to-day business, really important day-to-day business that we have to deal with as Cabinet members, as councillors, all the time. This is the really important stuff. It is, as I keep calling it, back to basics. We need to get this sort of thing right. We need to do that for our electorate, for our residents. As I say, I think it's a learning point for any new councillor. They just have a look at our agenda today. Okay, so without further ado, I will ask, I think it's John Avison, if he would like to tell us about his deputation.
Are we on? Right. Okay, my name is John Avison, and for the past 8 years, I've been chair of the Armitage Bridge Village Association. Of the many tasks we've performed on behalf of the village's 400 plus residents over the years, the overriding one has been to make Armitage Bridge safer for anyone who lives or works in the village or is just passing through. Much of our work then has focused on traffic calming. We have an agreement with Kirklees Council Highways on a number of calming measures, some of which have been completed, others for which we are still waiting. But during this process, it has become clear that a second major problem in the village is the attempted passage of heavy goods vehicles along Armitage Road. And that passage has damaged cars, walls, and the bridge crossing the River Home, and virtually every day leads to disruption and hold-ups. Armitage Road is the B6110. It's barely half a mile long. It links the A616 Woodhead Road with the B6108 Meltham Road. And unlike the two 40-foot or 12-metre wide road it links, the B6110 Armitage Road is for much of its length less than half that width. Residents in many instances have nowhere else to park except along it. The result is that for the most of the time the road is impassable for HGVs. Now the road is signposted as restricted to vehicles weighing under 7.5 tonnes. Generally, HGV drivers ignore this. Their satellite navigation devices offer the B6110 as a cutting of corners, a quick way to avoid Lockwood Bar. It is only when they get into the village that they realise the road is little wider than a cart track. The result is that at a rate of at least one a day, heavy vehicles get stuck, delaying themselves and traffic behind and in front of them for up to 20 minutes as they try to reverse out. I have a set of photographs which I can submit for people to look at, which show the type of vehicle that damages our cars and walls and disrupts our lives on a regular basis. The angle of the road as it crosses the stone bridge over the River Holme means that HGVs regularly catch the parapet, nudging 4-ton stones dangerously into overhang. So, we are asking the Council to declassify Armitage Road to either C status or preferably U for unclassified. This action actually couldn't be simpler. It's the filling in by Kirklees Highways of just one form, a road classification change form. That is then forwarded to roads.classification@geoplace.co.uk, and I will submit a copy of that form if anybody wants to see it. Receipt of the completed change form at that website is a de facto declassification. This filters through to the Ordnance Survey master map and is then picked up by satellite navigation companies. The residents of Armitage Bridge would be extremely grateful if this proposal could be given serious consideration by this Cabinet. That is the declassification of the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Councillor Mayor, would you like to respond to that, please?
Thank you, Mr. Harrison, for your deputation and your recommendations to the Council to consider the lowering of the classification of Armitage Road. Classified.
Sorry, it's only just gone through it, sorry.
Sorry?
You can't get them.
Just do it again.
I did press it. Apologies, Matt. You need training as well. But right, okay, so thank you. I'll go again. Thank you, Mr. Avison, for your deputation and your recommendations for Kirklees Council to consider to lower the classification of Armitage Road, Armitage Bridge, from classification B to U. The road through Armitage Bridge is a B road, as you've indicated, and numbered the B6110. And it's approximately 750 metres in length and links the B6108, which is the Meltham Road one, and the A616 Woodhead Road. The alternative route to the B6110 using Meltham Road and Woodhead Road is approximately 3.7 kilometres. The existing traffic signs on the approach to Armitage Road doesn't make reference to the route classification and therefore doesn't encourage drivers to take this road over alternative routes. Armitage Bridge is traditional village community with a mix of residential and commercial properties. The road varies in width throughout its length, with on-street parking at various sections along its length, specifically where the adjacent properties have no or limited off-street parking provision. The nature of the commercial operations in the area is such that there is expectations that larger delivery vehicles will require access at some point to businesses along this route. So in most recent traffic counts in March 2019, on average, 2,105 vehicles use the route each day. That's all the traffic travelling in both directions. That's roughly 2.88% of these vehicles were HGVs and 5.48 were light good vehicles. And as you'll probably be aware, cars were the major classification of vehicles, which amounted to 86.85% of the total. So by comparison to the A616 experiences approximately 16,000 vehicles per day, and Meltham Road circa 9,000 vehicles per day. Armitage Road already has a 7.5 ton weight restriction along its full length that prohibits vehicles over the weight from using a route. There is, however, an exemption for those drivers that require access to any premises within the restricted area. Enforcement of weight restrictions rests with West Yorkshire Police. The B6110 through Armitage Bridge is a part of the priority treated gritting network. Routes classified A or B also have additional consideration in terms of planning authority matters. Armitage Bridge itself was last assessed in 2023, and there were no concerns raised about the structure itself. The bridge has suffered 2 low impact damage incidences in the last 25 years, which were subsequently repaired, and it's not known what type of vehicles caused the damage. This is very low damage rate. Now, with regards to the request to declassify the route, Kirklees Council, as Highways Authority, can, as you've indicated, change the classification of a road, and there is a relatively simple process to implement, which is a form. And whilst procedurally it is possible to make the change, in reality, declassification is unlikely to make noticeable differences to traffic flows. The classification of highways is essentially a navigational tool for people that are unsure of the route of their destination. Classifications or declassifications, in this case, does not prohibit any vehicle from using the route. Neither does it provide any additional enforcement powers. Drivers would still be able to use this route as they do now. Declassification would not result in traffic being directed away from Armitage Bridge, as satellite navigation systems would still promote the shortest and the quickest route using real-time data collected from active GPS signals in mobile telephones and not by route numbers or classifications. So declassification would not result in greater enforcement of the types of vehicle already prohibited from using the road. Enforcement is linked to the weight restrictions included in the existing traffic regulations orders, not the classification of roads. So there are also many A and B roads that have localized physical restrictions such as reduced overhead clearances, narrow road width, poor alignment, steep gradient, that motorists are required to be cognizant of and drive accordingly. And now it would not be appropriate for all roads with such limitations to be declassified, as there would not be a cohesive navigation system in place that supports people moving around the district. Highways officers have considered the request and recommended that the B6110 is not declassified for the reasons outlined below. So this approach would not significantly improve the situation at Armitage Road, could very marginally reduce the funding which is allocated for highways maintenance. It would detrimentally affect the highways maintenance inspection regime and street works reinstatement standards, and it would potentially reduce the justifications for gritting and have an impact on planning authority considerations. So I'm proposing to the Cabinet that the Cabinet supports the officer's recommendations and does not support the declassification of Armitage Bridge from B to U. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed. Mr. Everson, you've now got a question, I believe? Or actually, have you got a supplementary? I should ask you first.
I haven't really. Rather disappointed with that result. We believe our research shows that the traffic of HGVs would be significantly reduced. The 7.5 tonnes restriction, as I've said, is not adhered to. So we do get vehicles which are too heavy for the road system and too heavy for the bridge going through the village. As I say, I can't really agree with the highways officers on this one, and I don't think my team members, if they wanted to say anything about that. No. So.
Sorry. Thank you. Sorry, this is a public question. Yeah. No. So you now have a public question, which I fear might be redundant. Or not, as the case.
The question would be recycled. Please declassify our road, make it safer for people. And these are the pictures. If anybody's interested, wonderful pictures of lorries getting stuck and knocking wing mirrors off.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Everson, for certainly your deputation and your potential question. We can see your frustration. I mean, I think we all know Armitage Bridge quite well. I have to admit, I wouldn't even try to drive my car down there, let alone an HGV. So we do have sympathy with your request, but I think, as you've heard, it is the remedy that you're suggesting. It suggests that that is not the answer. Can we take it away again and look to see what potential other ways there may be of sorting the problem?
Informal for a moment. We have worked 8.5 years on trying to get traffic calming action in the village. There was an altered junction and 2 new signs put up, but the major work of lining through the village has been abandoned, it seems. I've not had any success in getting the council to, the Highways Department, to explain to our members why that's happened. It could be a budgetary thing, we don't know. But the work that was promised 2 years ago has not materialised. And maybe that could be looked into.
Certainly, thank you. We will certainly look into the lineage, but we'll have another look at the whole issue. Thank you. Thank you. I believe Councillor Cooper is your ward councillor. Yes. So we now go to questions by elected members. The first one I've got actually is Joe Lawson, but I don't know, perhaps you might like to defer to Councillor Cooper if Councillor Cooper's question is pertinent to the public question.
Okay, so thank you, Councillor Ahmed, for the response to residents from Armitage Bridge. A few things to sort of bring up on the answers that you gave. One of the gritting, I can see that's the gritting will go if you declassify the road. But actually, a large portion of that's a bus route. So as a bus route, that would mean that it would retain gritting, as I understand it, as it's a bus route. So I just wanted to deal with that particular one. The bridge impacts, you mentioned about the impacts over the last 25 years. Well, at least one of those has been in recent years, and pictures were sent of the vehicle that did the damage to Kirklees highways. I think I sent it, actually. So we do know what vehicles they are, and they are large vehicles that impact over that. So that's that. The whole thing about navigation. Now, if people have got legitimate reasons to go to Brooks Mills, Armitage Bridge, they put that in their satellite navigation and it will take them there. And that's for being directed to a place. If we declassify the road, as I understand it, it would take out some of the pre-ordained routes through the village as shortcuts. Now, anybody can see on a daily basis the fact that HGVs are getting jammed there and getting jammed up there, not just damaging walls, not just damaging vehicles, but actually stopping the flow of traffic through that point. So it's clearly not working. Now, the weight restriction, I fought like Billy O to get that weight restriction on that stretch of road, and we eventually got it. And I got a picture of myself looking a bit tubby by a weight restriction sign, which I thought was pretty brave. But it didn't actually get enforced in the end. And so we have a situation where West Yorkshire Police, they're, as we understand it, very, very stretched. And I could have them there any day of the week, putting tickets on things. But of course, it would be much easier if we had the road declassified to stop vehicles going through there in the first place. So I think we'd want to look into a bit more detail about the answer that's been provided regarding that. On the lineage, I'm very aware that lineage seems to be much more difficult to get done these days, and I'm pleased that Bankfoot Lane is getting done nearby. But just on a more general point on lineage, and it veers into a different subject, but we've got lineage in the town centre, we've got lineage in permit parking zones, which is not getting done also, and that's actually reducing a revenue stream for the council. And it's also meaning that people who've paid a large amount of money for parking permits are not getting the service that they pay for because they're unable to enforce lineage in permit parking areas. So 2 issues there. But I think we do need to look again at Armitage Bridge. We do need to look again at the claims that it won't make a difference, and I'd really want to get to the bottom of that.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Ahmed, can you respond to that, please?
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. I think in terms of the weight restrictions, the 7.5 tonne is there, but it's a police enforcement issue, and they are the people that you should be informing, and they're the people that should be actually taking that enforcement action. And the lineage, I think you're correct. That's obviously we have a massive task to get those done, and we will be looking into getting that as well. And I'd like to just go back to what the leader, Councillor Patterson, has mentioned, is let's review and have a look at this again in terms of see whether there's any potentially alternative approaches or methods that we can look at. But in terms of the arguments that I have presented, they are there, they're there in there. In terms of the declassification of, in terms of the navigation system, that's what it is. They do look at the shortest distances, and people will find those and they will use those, regardless of whatever bylaws are and whatever the instructions are in there. But like I've said, the issue in terms of that is quite varied, and there are a number of factors that are the reasons why those recommendations have been made.
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed. Just to pick up the point that Councillor Cooper has made about lineage, I mean, certainly, yes, there are lots of lines that need redoing at the moment. I would say the priority at the moment is road safety, and those are the white lines that promote road safety are more important or a higher priority than perhaps permit parking at the moment. But I'm hopeful and great that the officers will get round to all white lineage in the not so distant future. Sorry, just before I come back to you, I also just wanted to say, perhaps we could be working with the businesses down there, or and the sat-nav people, even because there are sat-navs which are available only for HGVs and which can avoid those seats. But you supplement.
So the white lineage, which is preventing, the completion of the scheme in Armitage Bridge. Yeah, I know. But I do wonder whether there's actually a spend to save proposal that could be done here, because we're looking at enforcement that's not able to be done because there's lineage in the town centre, for instance, Clothall Street, places like that, that's not getting done. And there have been requests by traffic wardens for like 5 years, apparently, for some of these areas to get done, which is basically an unenforceable traffic restrictions. If you're not getting those things in place, is there an argument perhaps that if the council's looking at white lining and traffic enforcement, that actually you could employ more people to do the work and do it on a spend to save basis?
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. I won't come back again, or I won't ask Councillor Ahmed to come back, other than to say yes. I still think safety comes first, but I do take your point. We now go on to Councillor Lawson's question.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome the new government initiative to get tough on fly tipping, but really hope that there will be money to actually get tough on the causes of fly tipping. Kirklees Council needs to have another look at how we actually try and stop fly tipping with a two-pronged approach. We need to actually look at reopening the tips 7 days a week. Maybe having a token bulky goods fee charge to encourage residents to use Kirklees services and not fly-by-night unregistered operatives. We could also consider similar initiatives that both Birmingham and Newcastle Council have, whereby wagons and trucks go to hotspots areas to collect waste and household goods, with residents bringing their items to the wagons. But I'll move on to I'm here really today to actually again raise the state of Hughes Hill Road play area. This is a play area, and it's actually of all the hotspots, all the grot spots of fly tipping in my ward that actually gets to me the most. It is this area, because children should be able to play safely there. The latest fly tip was reported in the middle of March, again by myself, and we're nearly 2 months on, and all that has actually happened is the fly tip has grown, and still we're being told it doesn't warrant covert monitoring. I do also have concerns regarding the lack of collection of bags and fly tip collected by volunteers. Volunteers who give up their time to make a difference to their communities. Volunteers that will go out of their way to try and improve their community. There are bags of litter still waiting to be collected from a litter pick on the Manchester Road within my ward that's been there since February. I'm sure you'll all be aware of the work that the Calder Conservation Group in Dewsbury do to cleaning the banks of the River Calder in Dewsbury, where the latest waste that they have collected is still waiting to be picked up 6 weeks later. Councillor Ali Arshad asked me also to raise the work of litter pickers on Sands Lane in Dewsbury after one of them posted on his social media. This particular case has resulted in numerous bags being collected by volunteers, and they are still waiting 9 weeks on. These volunteers have also been back and rebagged the waste because it was being ripped open by vermin. It's also attracted, once you've got bags of waste, people think, oh, we can drop something off there, and it's this vicious circle. So it's also attracted further fly tip on there. We should be championing our volunteers, not making them think, what is the point? Is up on Crossland Hill in my ward, we have a group of women that are out regularly cleaning Deep Lane, and they're there time and time again, reporting all the fly tipping, everything there. And yesterday, one of them posted and says, I don't know why I bother. I sincerely hope that they will continue to actually bothered. But if we've got people cleaning up our streets for us, then surely we should at least take the waste away in a timely fashion. Can you also tell me how much Kirklees Council is paying to remove fly tip? And also, what is the whole time equivalent for the fly tip team? And does this differ from this time last year? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. I'll ask Munir Ahmed to come back on your question. Thank you.
Councillor Lawson, there's a number of questions in there, and I'll try and sort of address as many of those as possible. In terms of generally with fly tipping, we are continually trying to resolve the matter, and we are continually reviewing the process. So I take on board some of the comments that you've made, and we will be putting that into the system to ensure that we can always try and improve the system. But we are, from a performance point of view, trying to clear as many fly tips as possible, but also to see if we can actually continue to be a deterrent as well. But I would want to come back to the fact that there is a joint partnership with ourselves and the residents, and also with the ward councillors as well, so that we can all collectively do things together. And if we can work together, then I think we can resolve the problem as well, along obviously with the police in terms of any antisocial behaviour that results in that as well. So fly tipping is not going to go away. It's a problem throughout the whole of Kirklees and throughout the whole of Britain, and we will try and do that. And if you're aware that Keep Britain Tidy is doing a project over in Heckmond Wyke at the moment, and that is an exceptional project that we're looking at in terms of trying to reduce the fly tipping as well. And we'll be looking at that and putting that back into obviously our review process to see how we can actually make sure that that can now then be rolled out to other areas. In terms of the state of Usel Road, I think I have had extensive discussions with the councillor, with the ward councillors, yourself, and Imran Safdar as well, Councillor Imran Safdar as well, in terms of the situation. And we are aware of in terms of the play areas and the play provisions, it is in the programme, but like budgets and like everything else, we're going to try and make sure that we can do whatever we can to make it safe. But in terms of fly tipping in that area, again, you know, we need that partnership working with the residents, the ward members and ourselves to try and see what we can do. You've mentioned Councillor Ali Arshad in terms of some of the issues. Can I request that, please? If that can be put into an email to me, and I'll look into that, because I'm not really aware of the specific issues that he's talking about, and I'll look into it and get back to him. And I'll also get back to you with, I haven't got the details at hand with me in terms of exactly how much the council is paying for fly tipping in terms of the specific costs, but if you can send out those details, and I will respond back to you. And Crosslamore as a whole, I think it's really heartwarming to hear that you have got residents who are working with you to try and get that done, and we need to see if we can continue to try and get that waste removed as well. And again, you know, as and when fly tipping is reported, the council does take the appropriate action to try and make sure that we can A, either get it removed, or B, you know, in terms of the zero tolerance, is to try and get the perpetrators prosecuted as well, because that in itself is a continuous problem in terms of people dumping the rubbish everywhere and leaving it for the council to remove. Thank you.
Have you a supplementary, Councillor Lawson?
Thank you. I understand the financial constraints of the council, I really do. But now we've actually got to the point where a fly tip is being reported and it's still there 2-3 months later. I remember when I was first elected, I used to walk, well, I still do walk around my ward, and I could report in fly tip. I could go back the next week and it would be gone. But now you're just looking at the same pile with a bit extra chucked on top. Can you answer me one question, if you will? How many cameras do we have to actually do covert surveillance of fly tipping hotspots in Kirklees?
Councillor Ahmed, can you respond to that, please?
I don't have the specific numbers, but I can come back to you on that.
Thank you for that, Councillor Ahmed and Councillor Lawson. I will just also say that in terms of the issues you were just raising there, in terms of the Dewsbury Care project and the little petite litter picking that they have been undertaking over in Dewsbury, we are aware of that, and they are in contact with the service manager on a way forward to remove that fly tipping, or rather I should say the litter that they have picked up. Thank you. We now have Councillor Tanisha Bramwell, please.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I'm just making notes because my question is a little bit similar but differs to Joe Lawson in terms of it's quite ward specific. So my question relates to fly tipping in the area, but also the cutbacks that we've seen when it comes to maintenance of our green spaces. So in particular, there's one that I would like to raise, which is in Dewsbury Moor, the Moorside Estate. I don't know if any of you are familiar about the Moorside Estate and its infamy, or the money that was plummeted into there around 15 years ago. It could be more than that. And the issues that we still face from those decisions that were made even then, when consultation was again not listened to by this council. That's another argument. So what I want to ask you about today is, on Mooring Lane, which is adjacent to Scarring Lane, there is a huge access point to an open space to the back of the Moorside Estate. It's across Moorside Road, and it's behind every property on Moorside Road. Now, when it came to cutbacks and the maintenance of this land, obviously the maintenance of this land was cut back, and it's limited as to how many times it would be cut, how many times it would be maintained, like many areas around Kirklees, which is understandable due to the service cuts. However, this specific piece of land hasn't been maintained, cut back in over 6 years now, according to my HMOs. They have requested it. It has now become a heaping and a massive hotspot for fly tipping, so much so that we're now seeing referrals coming almost daily from residents. Again, these have all been passed on to my HMOs and the managers of my HMOs who have had their own meetings. And the feedback that I'm receiving from officers is this: they are at a stalemate. They will not come and remove the fly tipping until the land has been maintained and has been cleaned up, and they will not maintain the land until the fly tipping has been removed. So we're at a little bit of a catch-22. And the reason why I'm bringing this specifically to Cabinet is simply for advice. I genuinely don't know where to turn with this case. My residents are fed up. I'm fed up with it. It's having a massive knock-on effect on the residents on Moorside Road. They've got children that play in these gardens. Those gardens are metres away from rat faeces and vermin because it's been left there for so long. Again, it's having a massive knock-on effect. So if this is the feedback that we're having from officers, where do we turn with this issue? And the unfortunate reality is I have similar issues in my ward. So yeah, any advice would be really appreciated on this case.
Thank you, Councillor Bramwell. I believe Councillor Crook is going to respond to that. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanisha, for bringing that to my attention. I was a little bit mixed up there because I was not sure whether you were talking about land which was vested with homes and neighbourhoods, because you were talking about grounds maintenance in a general sense and then talking about reporting it to your HMOs. If it's an issue with homes and neighbourhoods vested land, then if you email me the details, I'm happy to take that up. Usually if there's a complex case that's related to homes and neighbourhoods, then sending an email directly to me as Cabinet Member for Housing would be the way to get information on that. So for future reference, you could do that sooner in the process, and I will always try and get back to you. I'm a bit confused though about the 6 years not being maintained, and then the apparent mismatch between one officer saying that they won't collect fly tipping until it's been cut, and obviously if it's not been cut for 6 years, then it's not on a schedule of maintenance anyway. So we'll look into that and see where the catch-22 is coming in, and just clarify some of the details around where it's vested and what the land is and so on. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. I'll let you come back, Councillor Bramwell. I was just going to say, is it the play area, the redundant play area that you're talking about behind? No.
I know which one you're talking about, but it's not that one.
Okay, all right. So a supplementary.
No. Yeah, thank you. Councillor Crook, I appreciate that. And I understand your confusion because I'm confused. I'm still fairly new to the role. I'm 12 months in, so I expect to be quite confused when it comes to certain protocols. But fly tipping, obviously, is something that we all report every day. I'm sure of it. So it's something that I learned quite quickly. There's a couple of things I just want to touch on, hear from your feedback. I think what's kind of disappointing my residents, and it's disappointing me too, is we understand that the council is in an issue when it comes to the budget and everything that we've seen over the last few years. So we are completely understanding that there's been cutbacks, and we're also very aware that these cutbacks are not ward specific. It's across Kirklees, and we also know that it's across many councils. We understand this. But there's a difference between cutting back maintenance due to service cuts and negligence, and that's what this has been. It's been negligence for a lot of years, and this community has been left to fend for itself for a long, long time. So what I will ask is, I do appreciate your comments on it, and I also appreciate the fact that you've allowed me to reach out to you specifically on this case so we can find a positive resolution. Will you come out and commit to a ward visit with me, just so you can learn a little bit more about this case and see if that helps in finding a positive solution moving forward?
Thanks for the further information there, Tanisha. I just want to clarify something. You're talking about budget cuts within the council. If this is homes and neighbourhoods, then there's no impact at all on the HRA from any of the local government budget cuts, so that doesn't add up at all. The homes and neighbourhoods finances are completely ring-fenced from the rest of the council, always have been, so the money that homes and neighbourhoods gets is from rent and service charge from tenants. It's not connected at all. There is no cut of budget to homes and neighbourhoods, totally disconnected. So I think the first thing to do is to email me the details of exactly which piece of land, what the problem is there, and I'd like to go into that with homes and neighbourhoods officers and check if that is land that's vested with homes and neighbourhoods. If there's a systemic problem with the way that we're managing assets within homes and neighbourhoods, then I'll be interested to find out about that. Obviously, if there's spare land invested with homes and neighbourhoods, I'm very keen to see if that's land that we can use more productively. In particular, we have an acute housing crisis nationally, and we're not immune to that in Kirklees, so I'd like to use any land available for building on to build on, if at all possible. So first I'd like to get the details and understand, because some of the detail you're providing around budget cuts being implicated, it being homes and neighbourhoods, fly tipping, grounds maintenance, it just doesn't quite add up yet. So I'd like to work out the detail first, and then if it's appropriate, I'm happy to come and view that site, but I'm not going to commit to a ward visit until I know what the details are and whether it's actually implicated in my service area or not.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Safdar, did you have a question that you wanted to bring up?
Yes, first of all, I'll come to a question in a moment. Thank you, Leader. I'd like to echo the sentiments of all my colleagues here, especially Councillor Lawson. We've lost count how many times we've reported this particular appalling fly tip hotspot, and I know Councillor Ahmed does care about this area. He was brought up, like myself, yards away from the zone. I thank him for his visit. And he's been very courteous and been replying to me regularly. But we need to find a way to work together to install CCTV cameras. We've asked for this so many times. The residents, the place of worship, the pensioners, and the children and the parents of the area are sick to the stomach of seeing fly tips. So we are seeing unlicensed waste carriers come to the area and dump. And sadly, I think some residents do need a little bit of guidance and re-education that please don't dump excess food, and it's not a fly tipping site. But this does link into the situation at the tips now. A couple of residents did ask me a couple of questions. On a number of occasions, the Emerald Street, Vine Street official tip area has closed between 12 to 15 minutes early with traffic on that road, and sometimes I know it's tremendously busy, that particular Emerald Street dump. So could we maybe get the relevant cabinet member to speak to the relevant management on site to find out why residents, taxpaying residents from all over Kirklees, including family members and friends from our ward and other wards, are left stranded in estate cars and vehicles on that road, and also the other little. I'm sorry, it's just two questions, but. This links into rubble skips. How much money has the council saved by ceasing operation of rubble skips at the household waste and recycling centres? Because in particular zones, with hotspots within our ward, which is one of the most deprived wards in South Kirklees, we're seeing building waste, DIY waste, home DIY waste, rubble waste being dumped at these particular sites. The odd bin bag you can kind of excuse. But when it's rubble and home DIY waste being dumped, it kind of links into the issues at the recycling centres. So we need to maybe think about extending the hours. And we're going to ask publicly again. We know environmental enforcement have told us that they can't provide any more cameras or signage, but that zone is appalling to live in. So please, let's try to find a way to put another camera up on the usual roadist area, please. Thank you.
Councillor Ahmed, would you like to come back on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Safta, and I think you're aware that we have been having extensive discussions in terms of resolving the problems over in your area. A bit concerned about the fact that the housing waste recycle centre over at Emerald Street closed early from 12 to 15 minutes. I think, can you forward me the details, and I will obviously take that up with Suez, because that's something that I'm not aware of. And obviously they've got times at which they should be open, and that's the case. And in terms of rubble and DIY waste, that's something which Suez is now looking into to try and make sure that people can actually bring the rubble and DIY waste, household ones, to those centres, and that's something that now Emerald Street is actually operating as well. So that's some good news in that they're extending it. In terms of extension of hours, I don't think we can look into that yet, because that has budget implications, and it's something that has to be looked into in terms of the overall business and financial impact that it has. But in terms of closing early, that is completely unacceptable, and I'd like to look into that. So if you can please forward me the details, I'll definitely look into that. And flight tipping and hotspot areas, I think we've already gone through that discussion through Councillor Lawson's question as well, in terms of the fact that we're all trying to work together to try and address that.
Just to add to Councillor Ahmed's response there, they usually actually close the tip for a few 10 minutes or so whilst they change over the different whatever the receptacles that all the waste is in. If they have to take a full one away and put an empty one in, then they do close the site whilst they're manoeuvring, and that's what is normally the case. But we are now running out of time, Councillor Safdar, for this part of the agenda. So if you've got a supplementary, make it very quick.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Ahmed. If you could let us know about the Emerald Street developments and the extra services they're going to provide, that would be really useful to our residents. But again, Councillor Patterson, I take on board what you're saying, but this was at the end of the day when cars were already there. So this was like between 7 to 12 minutes, one incident. Yeah, so yeah, this is the end of the day. So people are working out on a Sunday, Saturday, clearing the garages, doing some DIY, cleaning the areas, whatever, and going to the tip, and they're getting there last minute, and then while cars in the area, they're disappointed, they're short, and these are taxpayers, these are hard-working residents. So I'll try to get that in writing as soon as possible. But yeah, let's communicate about the rubble skips and the extra service at Emerald Street, because the residents do need to know, because there's a bit of because when there's fly tips and when there's issues with tips and dumping and rubble and a disconnect with council services, it damages confidence in Kirklees Council. It damages all our reputations.
Thank you, Councillor Safdar. But you did say 12 o'clock, which is the middle of the day. But even on Saturdays and Sundays, they don't close at 12 o'clock.
This was just before 4 o'clock. This is the shot just before 4 o'clock.
Yeah, not 12 o'clock, because you did say... Okay.
Yeah, one resident says 7 minutes.
Yeah, all right. Sorry. Okay, my hearing.
With cars in the queue.
Yeah, okay.
12 o'clock thing, I get that.
Yeah, right, thank you. Right, well, that is the end of questions by elected members. We will now move on to the first item, which is the Healthy Child Programme, and Councillor Addy will, could you present this report, please?
Thank you, Leader. On June the 2nd, the Healthy Child Programme tender will go live. The Healthy Child Programme is a national evidence-based public health initiative aimed at improving the health and well-being of children and young people from the antenatal period to age 19 or 25 for those with special educational needs, also known as SEND. This is achieved through health and development reviews, health promotion, parenting support and screening and immunisation programmes. The value of the contract will be £8.1 million per year for the first 5 years of the contract. This will be fixed price for the first 5 years to assist potential providers in their planning. It also brings the funding envelope in line with neighbouring authorities in the Yorkshire and Humber region. Funded from the ring-fenced public health grant, this is a key element of our early interventions for healthier futures for our residents. This tender has been drawn up with influences from national guidelines, a comprehensive review of all 15 local authorities in Yorkshire and Humber to look at the regional picture, and local insight and engagement. The public, internal and external partners, particularly those working in the community, and our own council scrutiny members have been engaged in the production of this Healthy Child Programme tender document. In the process of coming to this point, the potential tender details have been taken to a joint scrutiny meeting of the Children's Scrutiny and Health and Adult Social Care scrutiny panels. Through all these processes, officers have identified and included some key areas of change for this new tender compared with the previous contract. The overall value of the contract has been increased. Partnership working and integration have been emphasised as crucial elements. A dedicated SEND section, co-produced with SEND experts and families, has been included to ensure these needs are identified at the earliest opportunity. A universal 3-month contact has been added to bridge the gap between the 6 to 8 week and 12-month contract that are mandated, to enhance early identification of health needs, support perinatal mental health, and address key public health priorities such as child development, breastfeeding and immunisation uptake. And also, the service specification states that a universal school nursing offer should be available for all children and young people in Kirklees. Changes were made to focus emphasis where needed and add tighter specification on delivery for our future partner. When the tender process is complete and a partner identified, the contract is due to start on April 1st, 2026. And so I'm delighted to be able to ask the Cabinet to note this report.
Thank you, Councillor Addy. Councillor Lawson, you have a question.
Thank you, Chair. As Councillor Addy has rightly said, this did come to a joint scrutiny of both health and adult social care and children's there. We did, when you're looking through the documents, there was a whole period of time when the mandatory visit targets weren't actually being met, but the team had actually taken up on those concerns, and on the whole targets were actually being met. We did raise some concerns about the offer. Obviously all the mandatory targets are for preschool or just coming into school. We did sort of then raise, what about the children of school age, the 5 to 19-year-olds, and we were very satisfied about what was happening around that, and hopefully it will lead to improvements in the care of our children. Thank you.
Councillor Addy, would you like to respond to that, please?
All valid points. Scrutiny was there to take a look, and they did. As Councillor Lawson's mentioned, officers did work with our partner to tighten up on weaknesses, and therefore some tightening has been put into the contract to ensure everything is on focus for the coming 5 years.
Thank you, Councillor Addy. Is this report seconded by... you're not seconding. You wish to ask a question. Sorry.
I did.
Before I go on, then, Councillor Cooper, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, a few issues on the paper have been raised with me by my colleague, Councillor Alex Vickers, which I'll raise now. Page 8.3 on the Children's Health Plan. How is the extra support identified and delivered for SEND children? Including support for their mental well-being, especially in school transition periods. Also, a school nursing officer offer would be great. However, how would this work in practice, and what are the costs involved, which is page 9.5.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find where you are.
Yeah, could you just repeat those references, please?
Yeah,
Councillor
first
Cooper?
one reference was page 8.3. And the second reference was page 9.5.
I don't know. If anybody can find them for me, that'd be great.
What's the page number, please?
I've just given...
I'm still not finding it. I mean, is it in the beginning of the report? You mean the first bit about send? Yeah. Sorry. Oh, right, page 4. Sorry, I'm looking at the... Sorry to do this, Councillor Cooper. Would you mind just briefly repeating the 2 questions?
Yes, certainly. No problem at all. How is this extra support identified and delivered for children with special educational needs, including support for their mental well-being, especially in school transition periods? And the second question was, a school nursing offer would be great. However, how would this work in practice, and what are the costs involved?
Yes. So, some very detailed information required there, which I don't have the exact details of. I do know that the school nursing offer is across all the schools, and not, you're necessarily an individual nurse within each school, but it will be an offer that will be provided across all schools. So what I'm going to have to do there is to get the full details for you in writing, so that you've got everything in there. I don't want to miss anything out.
Okay, so Councillor Cooper.
So on special educational needs, my colleague, Councillor Alex Vickers, raised the question of an all-party task and finish group looking at how Kirklees delivers special educational needs for children. I think the answer that we got back for that was that's under advisement, I think the word was. Where are we with that?
I don't think that's actually a supplementary, Councillor Cooper. That's a separate question. Did you mean it to be a... Well, I'm not even sure it's in relation to this report.
This is not... sorry.
This is about the contract, which is going out for for healthy school, which is about school nursing and about health visitors as well. So it isn't about our send process within Kirklees.
Though, and at some point I'd like an answer to that, thank you. And so would my colleague, Councillor Vickers.
I'm sure we'll be able to pick that up at some point, thank you. Can I see all those in favour? Thank you. We now move on to item 9, which is the Highways 2-year detailed capital plan allocation 2025, 26 and 26, 27. Councillor Crook. Oh, sorry, Ahmed.
Next one's Councillor.
Put your hand up. Sorry, beg your pardon. Councillor Ahmed.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Leader. This report outlines our strategic investment in Kirklees highways infrastructure, aiming to enhance road safety, support sustainable travel, and improve our overall network resilience. So the primary purpose of this report is to inform the Cabinet about the intended delivery programme for the highways capital plan budget allocation for the upcoming 2 years. So it identifies the specific projects planned for 2025-26 and provides an indicative programme for 2026-27. So the plan includes substantial investments of approximately £20.8 million for 2025-26 and £16.4 million for 2026-27, which is a total of £37.2 million of Council's investment over 2 years. It covers all aspects of highways essential works, including road surfacing and potholes, street lighting structures, road safety, flood management and drainage, traffic signals, car parking and cycling facilities and making public transports a realistic option for more people. Funding sources include grants from the West Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority and the Department for Transport, as well as investment by Kirklees itself. The investment will support local and regional objectives, including active travel infrastructure, networked upgrades for safety and resilience improvements using lower carbon treatments. Project covers various asset groups such as highways maintenance, byways, bridge repairs, street lighting replacements, signalised crossing upgrades, junction improvements and road safety enhancements. Maintaining and improving our highways network is essential to making Kirklees a great place to live, work and visit. Our ongoing investment improves access links between our towns and villages, creating more opportunities for education, employment and training. Investing in highways assets across Kirklees is key to supporting people in making the shift towards other travel options. So the local public right-of-ways, PROWs, would see better signage, boardwalks, footbridges and handrails, along with improved drainage and vegetation management along the 700 miles of rural and urban footpaths, bridleways and byways, making them more accessible. Funding for the urban traffic control would support new traffic light technology, prioritising the junction and crossing sites for replacements and helping to improve journey times and prioritise public transport, pedestrian and cyclist individual junctions and along key corridors. So the Safe Roads programme will also continue to encourage a shift towards more active modes of transport as we make improvements to our infrastructure, including pedestrian crossings and safety on school routes, as well as further speed management initiatives. The CRST funding, which is the City Region Sustainable Transport Settlement, which consolidates funding from previous allocations of the Highways Maintenance Block, Pothole Funds and Integrated Transport Block, is allocated to drive economic growth, improve services and decarbonise transport. This can be achieved with better investment in asset management and maintenance and through the provision and the promotion of safe, inclusive and accessible active travel and public transport to a more ambitious transformational project like Transforming City Initiatives. So the funding will help maintain and improve the conditions of the highway networks across Kirklees, which comprises of about 1,900 kilometres of roads, 2,333 kilometres of pavements and cycleways, 754 bridges, large culverts, subways and retaining other walls, and just over 58,000 street lights, 250 kilometres of established drains, over 75,000 gullies, plus other items such as road markings and street furnitures. So the report details how the investments have been prioritised to achieve value for money and supports the council and regional objectives. This report also represents a significant step towards improving our highways infrastructure, enhancing road safety and promoting a sustainable travel. I'm proposing, Leader, the Cabinet to approve the recommendations to ensure efficient delivery of the programme and achieve the anticipated outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed. Are there any questions from other members? I'm looking... Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Chair. Having read the report and looked at the spreadsheet, I'm absolutely delighted to see the number of schemes for Crossland Moor and Neverton Ward. Can somebody please clarify how the roads were chosen in there? Because we've got Balmoral Avenue and Bentley Street in Lockwood down for planing and resurfacing. And is it the entire length of Balmoral Avenue or just a subsection? Thank you.
Councillor Ahmed, can you respond?
I haven't got the details of that, but the way that they look at it is that there's a very comprehensive asset programme which goes through every single street-by-street programme of works, and that work it's a fluid spreadsheet and information and data which the officers look at. And as and when circumstances change or information comes through, then those asset programs come through to form what we would call the various programs for each subsequent year. So I can't give you the specific details of whether it's a full, you know, Balmoral Avenue or a part of it. It all depends on obviously the surveys and the information that has been collected, and then based on that, those particular asset programs are put together, and then the rolling programs are determined as a result of that. So it's quite a technical thing, which is an ongoing one, and the officers actually diligently do this and then report this information before the finalised programs and the capital plans are determined.
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed. Is a supplementary, Councillor Lawson?
Thank you for your reply, Councillor Ahmed. The only reason that I ask is because obviously residents will come back to me and say, what about Deep Lane, which is just around the corner? In Lockwood, they'll probably ask about North Street. And having walked the entire length of Balmoral Avenue after I read this report, I think it was last Thursday, me and Alex Vickers were up there, it didn't seem as bad as other roads within the ward, and that's why I asked if it was just a subsection of it that was actually going to be done. But if you could let me know if it is going to be the entire length of Balmoral Avenue, we won't look a gift horse in the mouth.
The details and come back to you on that, is that?
Thank you, Councillor Lawson and Councillor Ahmed. If there's no further questions from members, I will ask if the Cabinet have got anything they wish to contribute to that. If there no, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Turner, thank you. Can I see all those in favour, please? Thank you. That is carried. We'll now move on to item 10, I believe, which is the Local Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Fund levy, charging points in Kirklees residential areas, and that is Councillor Crook. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. So this proposal relates to funding for the expansion of our provision of electric vehicle charging infrastructure in Kirklees, with a particular focus on provision in areas which are less commercially viable, at least in the shorter term. The purpose of this agenda item is to delegate authority to officers, in collaboration with me as Cabinet Member, to deliver additional electric vehicle infrastructure to our district, aiding electric vehicle adoption and contributing to our council environmental commitments. This project is entirely funded through a West Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority grant and will leverage further private investment into our district, enhancing the initial grant of £2.5 million by 50 to 60%. This project will bring electric vehicle charging infrastructure to areas where private sector investment is more challenging and where there is less scope for residents to easily install home car chargers, expanding the proportion of our population for which the move to a low-carbon electric vehicle is a viable option. This will be especially beneficial as electric cars become more available second-hand and as new electric cars begin to move to much faster charging from the end of this year, aligning more closely with the conventional 5-minute fuel station refuel stroke recharge model, much as we're accustomed to experiencing with petrol and diesel cars or vehicles. I propose we accept the recommendations as set out at paragraph 6.1 as option 1 on page 46 in this agenda pack, or page 10 in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. Are there any questions from members? No. Councillor Kendrick. Thank you.
Thank you. I welcome this to give people the chance to charge vehicles, particularly where their properties don't have a driveway and so on. I suppose, I'm wildly looking through, and I've read it and I haven't spotted it. Has there been any conversation anywhere in West Yorkshire with the electricity suppliers? Because, you know, at what point do we overload the system? You know, I can't get a street light in one place in my ward because Yorkshire Electricity say that the substation won't stand it unless we want to pay for a new one.
So Thank you. So, thank you, Councillor Kendrick. So the short answer is yes, we are working closely with the DNOs and the electricity generating infrastructure and so on. I mean, this is part of a national scheme that the West Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority has bid into on behalf of the 5 authorities, and this is our component of that grant. This scheme in itself is not the super fast chargers that the latest battery technology will require, and I think there's more of an infrastructure issue with those. Certainly when we get to the sort of 5 minute for 400 kilometre new generation of electric vehicles, the charge rate for them will be extremely high, and if you had a charging forecourt, much like a petrol station, with a dozen chargers all trying to charge car batteries in 5 minutes, then there really is really a significant infrastructure issue that needs to be addressed in alignment with that, but that's not what this is. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. Any further questions? No? Okay. Can I see a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Ahmed. Can I see all those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. We'll now move on to item 11, which is the Combined Authorities Adult Education Functions Amendment Order. Gosh, 2025. Councillor Pinnock.
Councillor Graham Turner.
Oh, sorry. Chair, I'm going to take this because I'm on the Combined Authority Skills and Regeneration Committee. This is really technicality. The order is proposed as the transfer of funding powers from government to the Combined Authorities to enable them to utilise their adult skills fund budgets to fund new technical qualifications. If all 5 authorities need to sign up to this, if we don't sign up to this, there's a chance of losing out on some of that funding of that important work done by the committees around that. So it's a technicality. I'd like to approve that we approve this technicality and allow this to go forward and support the government in actually taking some more power out of local central government, passing down to a more local level. That's a positive as well. So good news in my opinion on this one. So propose that we accept this report.
Councillor Cooper, you have a question.
I do, I recognise that it is a technicality which is going through practically every council where there's a mayoral combined authority in the country, but it's also an opportunity. So on the consent for WICA to be given powers to deliver technical qualifications, I'd like to ask how the council will have input into what those qualifications are and how they're delivered. What will the mechanism be for Kirklees to have input into technical qualifications that WICA will be investing in? Will WICA be partnering with Kirklees businesses and education providers to deliver those qualifications to help their sustainability? For vocational qualifications, it might also be possible to lever in apprenticeship levy funding to help support these qualifications. I think we'd want technical qualifications that deliver skills for deep retrofit work, renewables, etc. It would be great to be able to support skills where we have a shortage, such as ecologists, which are in high demand in local councils. It would be good to ask WICA to produce a report for the council to show how they will help us achieve our goals as a council.
Councillor Turner, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. I'm sure that their officers will continue to work with their counterparts in WICA as this money flows through into developing a programme for how this is going to be spent and how that will impact on everyone. But as the money hasn't got there yet, those conversations will no doubt be had in the very near future as to how we do that. And you're right, I agree, we need to do more training on vocational skills. We are, of course, as a council, working with Dewsbury College to create a building skills hub in Dewsbury, and looking at how we can take that further in the future. So we are committed as a council to vocational skills, as it's really important to fill some of those gaps that we have in the market where skills shortages are holding back businesses at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Supplementary, Councillor Cooper? No. Now, I would just add to that in the report it does say that it is about widening the plan for technical qualifications, and it does open up apprenticeship opportunities and that, of course, we do work with the existing colleges and other providers in terms of adult education. But as Councillor Turner said, this is just a technicality, this report. It is about an amendment to the original Combined Authority Agreement in terms of funding, and that is why all the different local authorities are having to sign up for this, because it's an amendment to that original agreement. So can I see, is somebody willing to, thank you, Councillor Pinnock, seconding that report. All those in favour, please. Thank you very much. That is, and that is the end of the meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance.